Hey, this is Herald-Times sports editor Chris Korman here, joined by Dustin Dopirak. We're at Assembly Hall where we have a backdrop of a basketball bouncing.
Indeed.
It's a nice sound effect, I think.
It is. Definitely is.
It really adds to the atmosphere. And it was a great atmosphere today. A great college basketball game.
It definitely was. It was a great college basketball half.
Yeah. Indiana, Kentucky, the rivalry game. Packed house, loud as could be.
Yep.
And as you said, Dustin, pretty good first half.
Pretty good first half.
And then an 18-0 run by Kentucky.
An absolute blitz.
Wildcats win at 90-73. Obviously, Kentucky, one of the top 5 teams in the country. That was clearly on display today.
Yeah.
Tons of talent. Youth.
Lots of it.
You know, they made some youthful mistakes, but just.
I guess what's interesting, if you talk about the youth, just on a quick side note, there were a lot fewer turnovers today than you'd expect from two teams that are almost all
9 and
sophomores.
9 and 13.
Yeah, that's putting it together pretty well.
Right. It was a very quick pace. You know, they really both teams really got after it. And,
but not a lot of fast break points, though. That's interesting, too. Only 12 fast break points between the two teams. Yeah. They were definitely going at it, but, I mean, as we talked about earlier in the chat, I think Indiana actually played pretty good transition defense. I mean, there was the dribble drive motion definitely did what it was supposed to do. Basically, right. John Wall, there was a couple just plays where John Wall came, down the left elbow and just, 2 guys collapse. He found Bledsoe out for a 3. And, the zone moved the way that the dribble drive motion wants it to move, basically. And that's kind of a big reason why Kentucky was able to get things done. And, of course, the biggest thing was just height and size. I mean, DeMarcus Cousins and Patrick Patterson. DeMarcus Cousins might be a freshman, but that's a man out there.
Yeah.
And Patrick Patterson.
The rebound is a differential, 49-24.
More than double.
In favor of Kentucky. The thing and I know we need to talk about the Hoosiers, and that's what most people are interested in. But the thing with Kentucky that really sticks out for me, they are freshmen. They do make freshman mistakes, but they have just this killer instinct already.
They do. They do. That's absolutely true.
They step on people. And both these teams today, I thought it was an enjoyable college basketball game to watch because both teams have played tough schedules up to this point. They've played other people.
Especially the last week and a half. Actually, neither one of the teams. Well, Indiana had played some teams, but Kentucky didn't play anybody really until this week. But you could tell that this gauntlet has really matured them in the absolute same way with Indiana. I mean, this team, might have only got 1-2 in this stretch, but it's a lot better team than it was going into Maryland. Really, they could do a lot more things. They can hang a lot better just athletically. This team has come a long way since December 1st, basically. Definitely since Puerto Rico, but absolutely since the Maryland game. I mean, as much as obviously Kentucky ends up running away with it, making it look like it wasn't close. It was obviously dead even in the first half, and they didn't have the size to hang, but they made it a basketball game. And I don't think if they played Kentucky at the end of November, this would have been a whitewash.
Right.
Really.
And Maurice Creek, a big part of that, and I think we're starting to see the Creek that, at least I thought we'd see, as I watched him over the summer and sort of followed his career after he had committed and signed with the Hoosiers. Yeah. A big game player. Loves pressure situations. Ended up with 31 points. Hit a lot of big shots. He had a lot of momentum-changing shots, I thought.
Absolutely.
Early in the game. And
he was on fire from the beginning. He came out and just decided, okay, I'm taking this 3. It doesn't matter if it's defended or not. And he knocked it down.
Yeah.
He was just ready today. He wanted every shot he could get, and he knocked someone, get him down. I think 5 for 8 from 3. Yep. It was just lights out.
And ultimately, Indiana, it was sort of tilted back and forth like that, and then Kentucky sort of had the final tilt.
Yeah, kind
of. Which is, they have a veteran, Patrick Patterson, who you can really tell. I mean, he's having watched him now all 3 years of his career, he's become so technically sound. He's such a polished player. He was a very physical guy as a freshman, and really seemed to rely on that. But you can tell he's worked on his game, and he's a real stabilizing force, I think, for them.
Yeah.
I don't think the freshmen they have are obviously an absurdly good class, and didn't seem to get rattled. But I think they did look at Patterson a little bit and to need to get calmed down. And I don't know that Indiana has that yet.
No,
they have a guy in Jeremiah Rivers who wants to be that.
Right,
they have a guy in Devin Dumas who want to be that. And they haven't been in this program long enough to really have the same sort of force that Patterson does.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, it is what Tom Crean keeps going back to, and it's it's kind of weird to just keep repeating this. But he's right. As much as he says it and keeps going back to it and back to it and back to it, that's the difference. that's the difference between this rebuilding project and every other one. At least there's somebody, some guy that they can look to. Obviously Kentucky didn't have the best last 2 years. I mean, shoot, they were an NIT team last year, and Indiana would have killed to be an NIT team last year. And Patterson's been there for a NCAA tournament. Wasn't the best run in Kentucky history, but it was something. And he's an All-American quality player. And that's what those 4 freshmen had, or 5 freshmen, I guess, had to come in and rely on and look to and say, okay, what do we do? How are we supposed to be college basketball players? They could look to Patrick Patterson. They might be as young as Indiana in some ways. And Calipari said they're as young as us. No, Indiana's still younger than you.
Right. Your thoughts on Tom Crean this week? I've said it to people, and I think wrote it maybe on the blog and other places. He seemed a little on edge this week, I think.
Yeah.
And obviously it's a rivalry game. Mm-hmm. He's playing one of his friends. Him
right.
and Calipari are close. It's it has a lot of ramifications in recruiting. It's a big week, but it wore on Tom a little bit, and he's been, he's soldiered through so much of having to repeat what we just repeated, that it's a rebuilding, and really sort of gone through that, and it seemed maybe to get to him this week.
Yeah, a little bit. He was definitely edgy, especially today in the press conference. A couple questions came at him at the same time, and he kind of ordered the SID to start pointing out people who was going to get next, and he never does that. It's never as formal. He just little things just seem to get to him. I mean, I asked him a question about how the run affected them or whatever, and he said he wasn't ready. He didn't want to do any self-analysis right now.
Which is sort of the whole point of post-game press conferences.
Yeah, more or less. That's pretty much where that's what they're for. But he's gotten a little bit short and a little bit edgy, and I don't know. It's tough to tell exactly what all to attribute to that, but you got to imagine that some things are getting to him. I feel like we've shown that we understand what, and general writers in the media have shown that they understand, okay, this is going to be a while. But you got to wonder if the fans, if he's seeing the same, patience from the fans, if he feels like they're expecting it to get better faster, and that, they should be able to compete, in and win these sort of games already, because that's what Indiana's always been able to do.
But it's such a different.
They're not there yet.
It's such a difficult process. I thought it was interesting today. Christian Watford, obviously, who was recruited by Calipari to Memphis. That was one of his other top choices. Ended up in Indiana, and Calipari said after the game that he thought it got a little bit too physical for Watford. And Watford got in foul trouble and really wasn't there. It wasn't as effective. He had some early spurts, but then sort of disappeared a little bit when it got real tough down below. And it's like that. Elston a little bit too. Elston was not up to the physical challenge. I don't think where he's going to be, obviously, in a month.
I think those are the two guys that you always point to when it comes to a game when they're playing a more physically mature and physically stronger team. I mean, that's really where the difference. I mean, those guys are very good athletes. They play hard, they're skilled, and they can do a lot of things. And they're obviously, the best forwards, front court players that Indiana has. But they're freshmen, and they're very much built like freshmen. They're not built like DeMarcus Cousins. They're not that big, that huge, or whatever. I mean, they are at least a year and a couple, or 2 years maybe of college weightlifting program, getting them to be what they need to be. And really, I mean, also those two guys, in a perfect world would be small forwards as opposed to power forwards. But that's where they're playing right now. I mean, that's where they have to be in this program. They have to play the 4, and they're going to play guys that are bigger than them. They got to play a Patrick Patterson. Defend. Obviously they're not defending a man-to-man, but they're dealing with him in his zone. They don't have that kind of size, and it's not going to show up this year.
That's another thing. Crean switched defenses a lot again today. A lot of zone. Said after the game that they wanted to get into other things. They had put in some other defenses, but just couldn't transition into them because of the flow of the game. And that's Indiana just could not match up in many ways with Kentucky. Kentucky often had 5 guys perfectly capable of scoring the ball on the floor. Indiana can't do that. They don't have the personnel right now. So hopefully you'll read the HT tomorrow. We'll have more coverage. We'll have stuff on the Hoosier Scoop too. Dustin's going to try to track down Gio Fontaine.
Yeah, that was a turn.
Who's apparently crossed the Hoosiers off his list.
Exactly. Yesterday he was totally down with it. Yesterday. Less than 24 hours ago still.
The world moves quickly, Dustin.
It does. I'm disturbed by this.
That is what we're learning. Hopefully your world moves wonderfully on this Saturday night. Have a great weekend.
Yep.
Enjoy. See ya.